You can see here where I notched the power steering rack into the frame. This way the car will set just a little bit lower in the front, probably dropped it 1.5 inches or so. I cut out a half a coil on the front springs on both sides. 1/2 coil kind of gave me a pretty good stance. You can see this is an LS1 motor in this car, and you can see that the clearance between the front pulley and that power steering rack is pretty minimal. Again, I've been driving it for quite some time, so it's doing pretty good. You don't want to notch that front too far, because then you won't be able to get this bolt in here. So you got to be real careful of that. On this side here, you can see my power rack steering. I had to do like 1, 2, 3 joints plus kind of a support there in the middle to get that steering to line up. Not too difficult, but it took a little bit of geometry. And then on this side, I don't know if there's anything special here to show. Not much. I did this Holley oil pan that gave me great clearance. You can see my O2 sensors. This is a clutch from a 93 or 4 Jeep. It's a slave cylinder here. I built a bracket that mounts to the back of that engine block here. Put a few spacers so that you can adjust the depth of this clutch arm. So basically this goes up, this is a slave cylinder and it pushes there. I could not get a mechanical clutch linkage to work in this car because of the headers and all the stuff that I've got going on. You can see there's part of that steering, one of the joints there is supported, welded to the frame with a support. So I'm running a 4-speed Muncie transmission. In order to do that, you can use the original LS1 flywheel. I used a clutch, just a regular clutch out of a car that had the Muncie in it, and an LS7 pilot bearing. You can use just a regular throwout bearing and a regular fork, but a hydraulic type of clutch release system. Exhaust was run. I had this special driveline built for the length. You measure from that flange at the rear end to the transmission output shaft, and that gives you your length. You talk to your driveline supplier before you do any of that stuff. Did a 4-link in the back. I set this up with coilovers so that we can get a good handling capability. I didn't really care if it was lowered too far. I wanted it lowered, but I didn't need to go down to the ground with it. I do want it to handle pretty good. So we did coilovers in the back with the 4-link. So you can kind of see, you know, the 4-link setup going into this Ford rear end. This, I believe we got this one for this project. I got this one out of a oh man, I want to say it's a, because it's even on both sides, an Explorer, I believe. So you can kind of see that it's got the old flanges from the Explorer on it, and it's got the speed sensor or whatever those that little toothed gear inside of there is. But everything seemed to work pretty well for this. Again, LS motor, so I had to do the Corvette fuel system. So that's that Corvette fuel filter regulator going into this. It's one of these tanks brand fuel tank that has the built-in fuel sender and fuel pump. Did aluminum line running all the way up with the fuel. And